What is up, Astros fans? We back, and welcome to episode 50 of the Believe in Astros podcast on Believe Podcasting Network. 50! They said it wouldn't last. Actually, no one said that. Spring training is open, and we are on episode 50. What a time to be alive. I'm Jeff Balke, alongside my partner, Jeff Blum, who's returning from a trip without internet. Did they also have water there, Blummer?
Yeah, I mean
did
it
you have
doesn't
to use
live
an
up to
outhouse?
like your idea of Fayetteville, Arkansas. Yeah.
Yeah.
But another just
find us...
brilliant advertising by Airbnb. Thanks a lot for that. Appreciate it.
Right. 0 stars Airbnb on that one for sure. 0 stars.
Yeah,
you can find us on Spotify.
Smalls.
Right. Oh, dude. Well, I was in Austin. Remember that one time, like during the World Series, and I had no Wi-Fi.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, and that was another Airbnb. It's like, thanks a lot, Airbnb. Next time I'm staying at a Marriott. You can find us on Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, and of course YouTube. Be sure to like and subscribe to keep up with us, and give us a follow on Twitter at Believe in Astros. You can find me at Jeff Balke and Blummer at Blummer27 everywhere on social media. Thanks to everyone who's given us 5 stars and left reviews on Apple. If you haven't, just go ahead and get that done. I'm not even asking. I'm just telling. Obviously, send us your comments. Yeah, exactly. Obviously, send us your comments, questions. We love seeing all of them, and we read them all. For example, is Yordan Alvarez really only the 9th best player in baseball? Is Aaron Judge the 2nd? We will discuss. Blummer, how are you doing this morning? I see you made it back from Arkansas. Did you end up with dysentery or the gout? I kid. Arkansas is a beautiful, beautiful place.
No, you know what? My brother actually played baseball at the University of Arkansas, so I had a preconceived notion that he didn't help encourage because he's a California kid and got recruited, was able to play in Arkansas. But at the same time, the pictures that he was taking and sending back to me when he was at school, I was like, damn, you're skinning deer now, and stuff like this. So he fed into that idea. But when I got up there for my daughter and started checking things out, I really started to fall in love with the place just because it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
There's hills, there's rivers, there's hiking, there's biking. The college town restaurants are amazing, and obviously I get spoiled when I go there because I know enough people at Arkansas to be able to sit courtside and watch an NCAA basketball game, which was an absolute blast. So I'm happy to be back, but it was a great, worthwhile trip.
Yeah, Arkansas is actually really beautiful. My wife and I went there a number of years ago to Magazine Mountain, which is just spectacular. Really, really beautiful place. Driving through some of the small towns is an interesting experience, much like driving through. It's kind of like driving through East Texas. You're just going to keep on moving, get a full tank of gas, and just keep rolling right on through. But I tell you what, it is man. And Hot Springs, you can't really beat it. You just can't really beat it. It's lovely. So let's talk about it. Just to our sponsor. We may as well get our ad in here for Bet Online. Bet Online remains your number one source for all sports betting this season. Everything from college basketball, which you just mentioned, pro basketball, which we're not going to mention, UFC, MMA, and more. Go Cougs, by the way, still number 1 in the nation, although everyone keeps talking about, will Kansas be a number 1 seed? Who cares? Kansas is going to lose to the Cougars regardless of what happens because U of H is awesome. All hail Marcus Sasser. You'll always find the best odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at Bet Online. With live betting options, free contests, and live scores for almost any sport or game imaginable, Bet Online is truly the fastest and easiest way to bet all your favorite leagues and events. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to join and receive a 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Use promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, to receive your rewards. BetOnline.ag, where the game starts. I will say quickly, a note from last time when I was flying solo. I was trying to say Mookie Betts, and I said Mookie Blaylock, and this not only does it date me by telling you what, but it also tells you I've only known a couple of Mookies in my life. I guess Mookie Wilson would be the other one that would be a possible Mookie, but my apologies to the Betts family. Thoughts and prayers.
That's amazing.
By the way, here's a quick little, and someone pointed this out to me on Twitter. One of Greg Cartlett, who follows us, is that Mookie Blaylock was almost Pearl Jam's name. Pearl Jam was going to call themselves Mookie Blaylock because they're all big basketball fans, but they realized it might not be okay with Mookie Blaylock. He was a star for the Atlanta Hawks at the time. And
wow.
I think they determined maybe using an actual person's name might not be okay. So they went with Pearl Jam.
Your NIL money right there. You'd have to pay big time.
Right, especially today. Good Lord. And if you're a pro, man, forget it. You're just talking pure licensing. Never mind.
Yep. And considering how good that band and how long they've been playing, you would have been making a lot of money.
They'd be like 1, 2, 3, 4 Mookie against one. That's it's like I'm telling you, man. Mookie would be making some serious bank. Not that I'm sure Mookie Blaylock did very well in basketball. I don't know. And why am I spending so much time talking about Mookie Blaylock?
That is one thing I had no idea when I signed up for this.
I know. Blummer's like, who the is Mookie Blaylock?
Like, dear God, what are we doing? No, I'm just
exactly. All right, so getting past my faux pas from the other day. See, Blummer, this is what happens when you let me go by myself. I end up saying ridiculous things.
I had so much faith, dude. I thought you did a great job other than that.
I appreciate that. So I want to talk about one thing that I'm a little bit curious about you as a former player, and that is Anderson Comas. He's a White Sox minor leaguer who just came out as gay last week. He's the third minor leaguer in baseball history to do this. And not from a political standpoint, but I'm just curious, at this point in time, do we think players even will care? Like, I kind of feel like it's at a point where we've been through this so much. I mean, it's such a part of sort of general society. I mean, I get it back in the 70s or 80s or whatever, there was a huge stigma. And there still is to some degree, but I mean, there are gay people in the military. They're, in every walk of life. We all know gay people. We all have friends and relatives. I just kind of wonder at this point, would it even be a big deal if a major leaguer came out?
Well, just real quickly, I just hope we get to the point where we can stop being so divisive and just include. I mean, everybody's got their issues, everybody's got their personalities, everybody's got their things that they do, and eventually we're going to get to the point where we're just like, okay, we're all messed up, we're all going to love each other, and let's move on together. And that's kind of the idea in the clubhouse for me. And I've actually spoken about this, several times with on my other podcast with David Tuttle. When you're in a clubhouse. And you like right now, you're sitting there in spring training and you're looking around at, there's 65 guys in camp. There's 26 now that are going to break with the team. And when you look to your left, when you look to your right, you're going, okay, who's going to be in this thing with me and grind it out and battle their ass off and play this game? And that's all you care about. It doesn't matter race, creed, religion, sexual preference. I mean, those are all off the field things to somebody that means something. But while we're in here in this clubhouse, we're going to go out there and battle, and I'm going to back you up, and I'm going to support you the best I can. And I really hope that that's the idea in sports now across the board, whether it be basketball, football, hockey, baseball, that we are going to go out there, we're going to be supportive, we're going to play this game as hard as we can, win some ball games, and then celebrate afterwards. And I think that's the idea. But in this day and age, you're right. I think we're to the point now where we're like, okay, there it is. That he is who he is, and we're just going to keep playing the game, and it shouldn't be that big a deal.
As Chris Rock once said, everybody got at least a gay cousin.
Yeah.
It's like, I think it's just,
dude.
To me, I think it's much ado about nothing. I mean, it was funny that and not to say that it's not important for people to come out and speak their truth. That is, I mean, it's good for him for doing it. Obviously the marginalized communities of our society and the LGBTQ plus community is certainly well among that. But I mean, I feel like this is a kind of thing where, we need to break this barrier, right? Just to get it out of the way so that it just doesn't become an issue anymore, so that we can just deal with it and move on. People are going to hate it, and that's their prerogative because people are weird. But for the most part, like you said, I mean, if the military can handle it, and you see all these reports from people in the military like, we don't care. Like, that guy's fighting alongside of us. What do we care, So if they can handle it, I'm pretty sure professional sports can handle it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Anyway, moving on. I'm curious about this. So I just did some reading about the new pitch timer, and I find this fascinating. And I want to get your take on this because there's a really good story in MLB.com about breaking down how the pitch clock actually works. And what I did not realize is that there is there is a group of people who work in Major League Baseball called field timing coordinators. Now, these guys have been around forever, but nobody's known about them because they've mainly just kind of kept track of the play of the game, the pace. Yeah. But now they're going to be in charge of the actual pitch clock. And one of the things that I thought was really interesting about this is that the pitch timer, it's 15 seconds with the bases empty, 20 seconds with the runner in base. The timer starts the moment the pitcher receives the ball and stops the moment he goes into his motion. That is the part I think is really interesting because these guys, these FTCs, they are going to be responsible. I know that's what they called it.
Another what anagram or whatever they call it to run the world. Let's go.
That's what they called it in the story on Major League Baseball on MLB.
You know what FTC stands for, right? F the clock.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. But I mean, these guys are in charge. They got their fingers on the button, man. It reminds me of like back when the Rockets nearly lost a game to Utah because the guy didn't turn the clock on.
Oh dear God, I know.
You know, so
you're going to have issues like that, by the way.
Yes, exactly. That's what I wanted to talk about.
Yep.
Is this that ultimately, one of the things about technology, and everybody's talking about AI now, right? And how it's going to, all this stuff. The truth is that even with AI, there's still a human in the box somewhere fixing things. As my good friend Kimberly likes to say, she's been in tech support forever, the internet is not magic, right? There's usually
Thank
somebody,
you for stating that.
There's a bunch of people in there doing work, and that's how it gets done.
The entire world is the Wizard of Oz.
Exactly. So there is a dude or a lady sitting in a box somewhere flipping a switch to determine when the play clock starts. Now, they've been doing this in basketball for years and in football, obviously, for years. When they reset the in football, they have the clock, and in basketball, they have the 24-second shot clock. But baseball, this is brand new. This is sort of new. How do you think this is going to go? I mean, there's going to be some arguments at some point, right?
Big time. I mean, who's to say when you're in Yankee Stadium that the Astros clock is shortened? Who's to say when the Yankees are in town that the Houston clock operator might just be a little quick on the trigger, just to speed things up and make it a little bit of an issue. But, the FTC is going to do their best to kind of, make it an equal playing ground. But I think those clock operators are going to need to, be in witness protection programs in certain cities to get in and out of the ballpark because there's going to be a lot of pressure on them. Obviously, there's going to be leeway that first year, I would imagine, or maybe even the first 3 months before everybody has expectations on how it should work, the more comfortable we get with it.
Right.
But, I do think it's interesting that, that clock is running until you do start your motion. There's times where you're trying to, change your pace on the mound with a runner at first base. You're trying to hold for a little bit longer, but that's going to have to be adjusted. And then, there's also, I don't know if you saw this or if it was in that article, but that 30-second clock in between hitters. Yeah. That's something that there's going to have to be communication between the clock operator and the home plate umpire trying to figure out when that 30-second clock starts after the hitter to get the new hitter in the box. And so there's going to be a lot of things going on. But, yeah, it's going to be a lot to determine when that pitcher starts his motion. I know there was a lot of talk about Kevin Gausman, his set position. He had about 9 steps before he actually came set. He's going to have to eliminate that. I still don't understand the Luis Garcia rule.
No more rock the baby.
Yeah, but if he's in, that's part of his motion. If there's nobody on base and he goes to rock the baby, the clock stops, he delivers the pitch. I still don't understand that. I feel like it's just he's a Houston Astro, he can't do that. I feel like it's just an Astro rule.
Well, I read the story about that, just not to interrupt you, but they said that
please do.
Now that they can only take 1 step forward and 1 step back. Like that's been the rule apparently forever. They just never enforced it, allegedly.
Yeah. Okay. Whatever.
I know.
Yeah, but Luis Garcia is successful, wears orange and blue, has a star on his hat, and won a World Series. So that we're going to penalize him and make sure nobody ever does it again.
Thanks, Rob Manfred.
That's just my opinion. Yeah.
Exactly. I can tell you right now, this is going to create some serious chaos, though. At some point, there's going to be.
Oh man.
And it sucks.
You know as well as I do. Baseball is a game of moments. Like in basketball, you have these runs, where you get this momentum, you call timeout, and you try and shift the momentum. In baseball, you could have your moment in the second inning, and if it's a pitch clock situation where, it's ball 4 or it's strike 3 to a hitter with runners in scoring position, or if you go to pick off on that third time or you got to step off and there's a runner moving, I mean, you're right. I mean, I really hope that there's not a pennant decided on some of these clock issues.
Yeah, exactly. And I tell you too, there's so many things to think about in the field. There's already like pickoff throws and throwing, and there's hitting the cutoff man, and there's, and which base to throw to, and like there's already a million things that you have to consider as a ball player on the field. Now you're just adding a whole nother layer of complexity, especially for catchers.
No, you're right. I completely agree about the complexity of it.
It's going to be wild. And what's funny, too, is I just think about pitchers who, like, okay, they throw a pitch, and then they just want to stop real quick to, like, grab a rosin bag. Or they, I saw a guy, I'm trying to remember who it was last year, it wasn't Astros, who had to tie his shoe, right?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking
there has to be some discrimination or some judgment by the umpire on that. Because if I'm a hitter, Derek Jeter wouldn't survive in this era because he can't put the hand up to call timeout.
Right.
They've eliminated that, but there was a college game where I think it was UT actually, where the hitter's screaming, timeout, timeout, time, and he never got it. So what if you do have something in your eye, or what if you're the pitcher that's like, dude, I'm about to throw a ball with a loose shoelace? I mean, what do you do?
Right. Yeah, it is very weird. And we talk about discretion. One of my favorite things in baseball, and one of the things I think sort of just goes back to the more sort of genteel nature of the sport, is when a catcher takes a ball, gets hit, or when a hitter gets hit, and there's like a little moment where they're trying to sort of catch their breath, and the umpire will just walk out and dust off home plate.
Yeah,
like just as a
professional courtesy.
Yeah, exactly. He'll just be like, all right, let me give this guy a second to like get his stuff together. There's got to be some of that still built into this. I mean, just for like you said, what if somebody's got something in their eye, or what if it's a very weird scenario. And one other thing about this thing too is about not just the pitch clock, but the timing of all this. Obviously, guys can't throw over to first anymore. But at least no more than, I think it's twice. But here's the interesting thing about that: they didn't limit catchers. So so there's going to be definitely some shots by catchers who are good at it. They had a story about the guy at Braves, Sean Murphy, who has talking about how quick he was to first. Maldi's the same way.
Yeah,
there are going to be some serious pickoff throws from catchers happening this year if the pitcher can't do it. And then what's next? They're going to limit that?
I know. Well, you never know. I mean, obviously, unilateral decisions happen in baseball, but I'm kind of curious now that you made me, you thought about the catchers. I'm just going to fire down to first base and give my pitcher an extra 10 seconds to get a breather, or for me to decide what pitch to give to him.
Right.
What if the catcher just, a ball in the dirt, you got to throw it out, you got to get a new baseball? What if I'm the catcher and I'm just kind of like, well, if I hold on to it for a little bit longer and maybe fake a pump to first base, or investigate the seams on the baseball, or just kind of adjust my shin guard real quick and then throw the ball back to the pitcher, then the clock starts. I mean, don't ever underestimate the ability of a professional athlete to manipulate the rules.
Oh, especially Maldonado. Maldi, he might do it. He might
veteran.
Oh yeah, he might be back there he might just be dance for a second. Be like, that might be like his new move or something. It's like checking his nails to make sure the color looks good on him. Whatever it is. Yeah, I think you're right. I think there's going to be a lot of that. I also think it is going to be a big deal. I mean, if you're a catcher who's new, or to the ball club.
Could you imagine being a rookie in this situation? Yeah.
At least with the rookies, they've dealt with the pitch clock already.
True.
So for them, they're kind of used to it. But just to deal with the being in the major league level, and the Astros are likely going to have a backup catcher that's a rookie.
You're right.
So those guys are just going to have it drilled into them. It's going to be like finals week for them for sure. So I think it's going to be It'll be fun to watch in the preseason. I hope it doesn't mess things up, when we're, off and running into real games.
I'm going to be fascinated by it. Yeah, if you're watching a couple of games on TV and I go dark, it's probably because I'm trying to watch clocks, watch players, watch mannerisms, and just see what's going on.
Yeah, I think it'll be good during spring training to kind of watch that, to see because I'm also curious where they're going to put the pitch clock. Like, isn't it? Does it go right behind the catcher? Like, how is it going to work?
Yeah, so I don't know how it is in spring training, obviously, because I haven't been there, but I will figure that out when I get down there and we can talk about it more. But I know that initially the emails that I've gotten from MLB and some of the video explanations that I've seen is there's supposed to be a clock on each side of the batter's eyes. So that if you're a right-handed hitter, it's easy to see. If you're a left-handed hitter, it's easy to see. And I think it also has something to do with the pitcher and the way they come set, so the umpire can see kind of through the pitcher to the clock and be able to identify if they're, if the clock is at zero, if they need to penalize the pitcher. But behind home plate, there's also supposed to be one behind the right, just off the right-handed hitter's box and the left-handed hitter's box, so that there's some, there's a clear line of sight for whoever's, from center field can see that clock. And I don't know if you know this either, but there's going to be a little bit of a buzzer or some kind of indicator on the umpire that will indicate to him when that clock is expired, that he can throw his hands up so he doesn't necessarily have to watch the clock himself.
Wow. That's going to shock some people early on. They're going to be sitting there and just doing their thing.
I wouldn't mind if it was a shock
collar.
collar.
They're going to get they're going to get buzzed and be like, what the hell was that? There's going to be definitely some jumpy. I can see it for sure. That is, just more things to look at. My goodness.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot.
In the NBA, when you have to see that, there are multiple times in any game that doesn't involve Chris Paul at point guard where guys don't know what the shot clock is, right? Where guys are just like, the clock is ticking down, somebody's yelling, shot clock, and they're like throwing balls up from, and it happens in the NFL. You see it all the time.
I know.
Where all of a sudden guys come out of the huddle and they're like, we got 3 seconds left to snap the ball, and they're like, timeout,
Yep.
So it's going to happen in baseball, too.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious, too, because, I went and watched, Razorback baseball this past week. They had the clock, and it was kind of interesting to see the clock and anticipate the pitch. That was kind of cool. You knew that there was potentially something to happen, so you weren't caught looking at your phone or talking to a friend, and all of a sudden, there was a pitch. What was it? You knew when that pitch was coming. The other thing is going to a college basketball game or an NBA game. How many times have you seen the shot clock in the arena get down to 5 seconds, and you hear the fans?
Yes.
5,
yes.
4, 3. Is that going to happen before a pitch is
yes.
thrown? That'll be fascinating too, because fans will get used to it and start to anticipate it.
Well, and baseball fans too are particularly unique in things like that. Like there are the traditions that fans take on, like the Chaz Chop or whatever it is.
Yep.
People they really get into that. So I could see certain ballparks, particularly really obnoxious ballparks, cough Boston. No. Really becoming a real pain in the butt about like shouting
on the visiting
out.
Pitcher, right? If the visiting pitcher gets down to that 5-4-3, I'm 5-4,
or
pressure.
Or even worse, starting the 5-4-3 at like 10 seconds, just to be, you know what I mean?
Yeah, the mind games.
I'm telling you, it's gonna be a real interesting. It's gonna be fascinating. I'm really fascinated to watch. This might be one of the most interesting spring trainings we've seen in a while. I hope a lot of people are watching because it's gonna really. I think it's really gonna translate a lot. So I wanted to get your take on who are some Astros that are going to be worth watching in spring training. I mean, there's some interesting storylines already. I mean, Mauricio Dubon gained 20 pounds by nearly eating himself to death, apparently. 5,000 calories a day, bro. What were you just like? And it's not 5,000. I have people I could just eat 4 brownies. That's not what he's eating. He's eating 5,000 calories worth of chicken breast or whatever.
It's a strategic move.
Yeah, it's just nuts. And then Maldi dropped 17 pounds, which, he was trying to get thinner. We have Forrest Whitley trying to make another comeback. McCullers with the quote-unquote minor injury, which, who knows what that's going to be. Hunter Brown in year 2. I mean, who are the guys you're watching in spring training this year?
Oh, man. It's crazy how I've always been, in the past, a veteran guy just going, Let's see the adjustments Altuve makes. Let's see the
Yeah.
adjustments that Bregman makes. Oh, I can't wait to watch Michael Brantley,
Yes.
work without the shift, or Kyle Tucker in these things. So those are kind of the obvious storylines, but I think you're kind of hitting it in that sweet spot with the pitching rotation because you and I both know, we sat on this podcast and I'm like, the Astros rotation will survive without Justin Verlander because of Lance McCullers. And who's to say that Lance won't give us 25 starts. Maybe he bounces back relatively quickly. I'm not sure of the situation yet, but it was a little discouraging for me just because he was one of those keys when Verlander left that I was like, dude, don't sweat it. We got Lance McCullers Jr. for a full season. This is great. And now you don't know when he's going to be able to get in, hopefully sooner than later, but it does open up the opportunity for a guy like Hunter Brown, who may have been 10th on that Rookie of the Year list. I saw one the other day that has him as that 4th best opportunity to win Rookie of the Year.
Yep.
And instead of forcing him into a 6-man rotation where there's a possibility, he's going to, I believe, if he pitches the way he can, he will be that 5th guy in the rotation.
I think so too.
So that will be a lot of fun to watch and see how they manage his season. Because, again, you got to manage some of these young guys to make sure they're good in October because you're going to October. And then Forrest Whitley. I mean, I am fascinated by Forrest Whitley because we have followed him for, 6 years now. And he should be, in our minds, he's probably 32. In reality,
he's like 23, right?
In reality, he's only 23, 24. So there's plenty of life in that arm. And hopefully, he's got the mechanics and he's got the mindset to go out there and do some damage, which would be a lot of fun to watch. But I'm watching Yainer Diaz, Corey Lee, and, the center field. I'm kind of curious what happens in center field because, Chaz played well enough to get the spot, but it still sounds like, Jake Myers might have an opportunity to sneak in there.
I'm gonna miss seeing Pedro Leon out there since he's got the sports hernia.
I am too. I love that guy.
I kind of wish he was going to be up there just to see what he can do. I'm with you, Blum, on all of those. I think, looking at this, the pitching rotation. Look, Lance McCullers has never thrown he's only thrown more than 150 innings once in his entire career. So there's no reason to think
during the regular season.
Yeah, during the regular season, no reason to think that Lance McCullers isn't going to have some kind of injury issue. It's just part of his, resume as a baseball player, and that's fine. The main key for him is if he's healthy going into the postseason. If he's healthy for the second half of the year, the last third of the year, and he's healthy going into the postseason, you can get away with because the team's depth is so good at. So I'm not concerned about resting him. Kind of like Yordan has this sore hand right now. Just rest Yordan. It's not going to matter. He'll be fine. He played through a sore hand last year. By the way, hottest stretch of the season, basically, with a sore hand. So we could maybe keep that thing sore. I don't know. But
it made his swing decisions even better than they already were.
I know. So, so it's like, so yeah. So I think that, it's that for me, I'm going to, I'm definitely going to be watching the catching position battle probably more than anything. It feels like to me the backup catcher is Yainer's to lose just because he seems to be ahead of Corey Lee pretty significantly at the plate. And that's the one that I'm going to watch because Corey Lee, look, if he can hit, he's clearly the better defensive catcher. And Yainer's a guy they want to maybe even move around. Also, Michael Brantley might play some first base. Apparently, they
kind of saw the video of him taking ground balls over there.
I know some of that is just training camp nonsense, where they put guys in different spots just to see what happens, see what kind of a
forces
disaster.
Chandler Rome and Brian McTaggart to take an extra picture.
Exactly. They were taking, everyone was lined up for Luis Garcia's first bullpen session, just to see his pitch. There was, I saw a picture and there were just dudes lined up all the way around watching to see his pitching motion. It's because he can't rock the baby anymore. It's right. I'm sure Luis Garcia will be fine. He didn't rock the baby. He hasn't done that for his whole career anyway. I read a story where he said, that he used to just go into the regular, windup. It wasn't a big deal. I think he'll be fine. But I think there's going to be some good stuff in spring training. And speaking of Alvarez, so MLB came out with its top 100 players, which is fun. And they did they listed their top 10 yesterday. And I'm going through this and so I'm just going to run them down from 10 to 1.
Yep.
And then we can kind of talk about them. 10, Freddie Freeman. 9, Yordan Alvarez. That's the one I really want to talk about. Number 8, Jose Ramirez. 7, Paul Goldschmidt, which, by the way, I think that's kind of low as well. Paul Goldschmidt maybe needs to be a little higher than 7. 6, Nolan Arenado. 5, Manny Machado. 4, Mookie Betts. 3, Mike Trout. 2, Aaron Judge. And 1, Shohei Ohtani. Now, I think the number 1 is, I don't think anybody can really argue with Shohei Ohtani being number 1.
How can you, man?
I mean, great hitter and a great pitcher. Just a total unicorn. Some of these I don't have a real problem with, but first of all, let's just Aaron Judge at number 2. Aaron Judge is a very, very, very good baseball player, but is he really a number 2 when you're talking about guys like Mike Trout and, frankly, Yordan? Their numbers were not that different last year other than homers.
Mm-hmm. Well, you put Yordan in Yankee Stadium, who knows what he does?
Right. Bingo. Right? So I don't want to be – who cares, right? It's just a stupid top 100
Well,
list.
it's a popularity contest, too. I mean, there's a little bit of that involved.
Honestly, the one that got Yordan and Paul Goldschmidt, I feel like both need to be way higher on that list. Paul Goldschmidt, don't sleep on that guy. I mean,
dude, he's been one of my favorites. I was with him in Arizona when he was a rookie, and he was a guy that you looked at him and you went, "Oh my gosh, this guy is going to kill the league," and he's still doing it. But he's so well rounded, and he's so well respected, and he's so smart, so good. But I'm with you. Goldschmidt could have been a little bit higher for me. Mm-hmm. I'm glad that they put Jose Ramirez on there because I'm a huge fan of him. Switch hitting and doing what he does on a team where the expectation is that he has to carry that team, and he does.
Yeah,
it is amazing.
And Nolan
to me.
Arenado too, same thing.
Dude,
I thought that's a sleeper pick right there. That I don't think a lot of people know.
Those are the best corner guys
is.
in the league.
Yes.
Arenado and Goldschmidt easily.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a fascinating list. Like I said, I don't really care. Who cares? I just think Yordan. I think what happened to him is he suffered because he DHs.
He still has that DH label. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think it's the defense that suffers. And Judge is a good defensive center fielder. But I just wonder about Judge being at number 2. Like, I almost feel like it's got to be either Trout or even Mookie Betts. These are guys like Judge is tremendous. And I'm not here to dump on the Yankees.
Judge is tremendous, but Mike Trout may show up and hit 50 home runs this year just to prove everybody wrong.
I know. Mike Trout is just – and granted, I think there's something – it feels like some of his image has been tarnished by the fact that he got this giant contract, Yeah. He was one of the first people to really get one of those big 10, 11-year deals, and he hasn't quite lived up to it. I mean, although he's still, arguably the best player in baseball. I was interested to see Freddie Freeman make that list at number 10. I think he deserves it, but I think it was kind of an interesting position to put him in there. I'm glad you mentioned Jose Ramirez. You don't see too much of their games. It's just not.
You should watch him. He's good.
Man, he is good at third base. Like he and Arenado are just, and Machado, right? I mean, there's 3 third basemen on here, and rightfully so. The hot corner is not an easy position to play, as you well know, Blummer.
Well, yeah. I mean, this is before we knew what exit velocity was. I was just like, I feel like this guy's trying to kill me at third base.
I was gonna say.
But what's great about this list and this top 100 is I saw a stat the other day that had the Astros and the Mets had the most players in the top 100 with 8.
Makes sense.
So that basically is your starting lineup and maybe Framber Valdez and Christian Javier mixed in there. So the Astros are in very good shape. And then the New York Mets had 8 also. I think the Dodgers were around 5 guys in that top 100. But it gives a lot of credit to what the Astros have been able to do as far as accruing talent and having them perform extremely well in their uniform. But this thing's going to completely shift. But that's a pretty strong 10. And Freddie Freeman's good, but it feels sentimental, because everybody likes him so much.
Right, and especially leaving the Braves and going, I think there's some of that. Blummer, speaking of that, what's the hottest shot you ever got hit at you that you caught?
Oh, dear God, that I caught?
Yeah, that you caught.
I mean, well, I don't use the term I caught. I use the term I got caught. And it was, playing third base, sometimes you're in self-preservation mode,
Right.
and guys will hit rockets, and they'll just be line drives. I remember I was playing for the Padres, and Greg Maddux is on the mound. And Greg Maddux was a guy that would look at me at third base, and he'd be like, hey, man, if I get to this count, be ready. And I'm like, what the heck? And sure enough, he'd kind of get to the 1-2, 2-2 count, and he'd kind of look over at me and give me a little head nod. And I'm like, all right, here we go, whatever. And I mean, Carlos Lee hit the hardest line drive I've ever had hit at me, and it would have squared me up right in the face. And I just kind of had to put my hands up and just kind of block it, catch it. But that was probably the hardest hit ball. But I had 2 instances where a ball ricocheted off my foot or off my shin, and I didn't see it.
You didn't see it?
No. And one of my first time was when I was, I think it was my second year with Montreal, and they had me playing third base, and I was still getting used to the position. And this will give you another idea how old I am. Devon White was leading off for the Dodgers, and it was day game. And I was playing him in on a bunt situation, and the pitch came in. I lost sight of it as it got to the contact zone because it was so freaking bright and those pale seats behind him. And all of a sudden I hear this whack, and I'm like, oh, dear God, where is it? And I feel it clip my pant leg as it went into left field. And I was like, all right, I think I'm going to need some shades or some kind of identifier to find the ball. But then there was another time, and this guy scared me to death half the time, was Gary Sheffield.
Oh, God. Sheffield, he crushed baseballs.
Dude,
he just mangled baseballs when he hit them.
Yeah. I mean, I say that Yordan, really hates the baseball. So did Gary Sheffield.
Yeah.
He swung so violently, and he would get the head out so quickly that it was, you had to react to the quick swing and the way the ball jumped off his bat. But we had a rain delay in spring training in 08 maybe, or it might have been earlier than that. But I'm playing third base. Roy Oswalt's on the mound, and Sheffield comes up, and I'm playing with my heels like I normally do on the outfield grass. Like I would have probably been penalized this day and age because I was partially in the outfield. Mm-hmm. And he proceeds to throw this fastball. Gary Sheffield gets the head out on it, and I think I'm going down to prepare for this ground ball, and it skips off the grass, and it hit my right hip as it shot into left field. I'm like, dear God, I couldn't even get I saw that one, but I didn't have the time to get my glove to it, and that's where I was like, oh dear God, I need to get a little bit ready, a little bit quicker against this guy.
Man, that is that's got to be terrifying. Just coming at
you.
Well,
it's terrifying in the sense I almost died. And then the second thing is my entire third base dugout's going, oh my God, Blummer, you suck. What are you doing? Catch the ball.
Did it hurt when he hit you in the hip, or was it just graze you?
No, it was a glancing blow, thank God. Yeah.
Yeah, because nobody went. I mean, I've been hit by a baseball once.
I don't recommend it.
Life. It's not fun. It's not fun. No. I was playing, it was one of the rare times I was playing street ball with somebody, and we actually played with a baseball. God only knows why. And kid threw and beaned me, and he was throwing 30 miles an hour probably. And I mean, so I can't imagine. I've talked to I have a couple of friends who've been in batting cages with major league pitchers, and just even seeing a pitch thrown terrified them. Right?
Yeah, I would love to have every single fan who ever has gone to a baseball game or ever will just stand in the box. Not swing, just stand there and watch.
I'd love to stand in the box and watch a pitch. I would probably dive out of the way at every pitch regardless of whether it was a ball or a strike. I would probably hit the deck and be laughed at, but I wouldn't care. The ones that always get me are the breaking balls that look like they're going to hit you and then they end up
strike.
Those kind of things. That to me, I think you're right. I think fans would do well to see what that's like, or to just stand in the outfield and have a ball hit towards them. I mean, even that, because it's hard to see. When I'm telling you, I think I've told you this before, but I've sat out in the Crawford boxes and you see a ball coming, and you're like, I have no idea where that ball could. It's either going to come straight at my face or it's going to land on the first base bleacher. I don't know. I have no idea where it's going, right? Because it's just so hard to judge that depth and all that stuff in a big stadium like that. It's very complicated. So yeah,
Yep.
That's a good idea, Blummer. You should just like pitch that one to the Astros. Be like, let's line up the fans. Get somebody out there.
I bet you there's a lot of players that would line up to be able to be a part of that too.
Oh, you know there would be. You know there would be. There'd be some guys going, "Come on, let's go." Here comes here comes the deuce. And when you speak of me, speak well.
Yep.
That's going to be it. All right, Blummer, any final thoughts? You have big plans this weekend? I know you're getting ready to go down to spring training and start calling games, right?
Yeah, I'm actually going to try and leave here in about a half an hour, and I have not packed yet, which should be very interesting. So thank goodness we have polos that coordinate, and those will be going in the bag. But yeah, I'll be down there for the next week in spring training, calling games on TV and radio.
Awesome. Sounds great. We'll all be listening and watching, of course. And we will be back next week with a fresh podcast. Hopefully we can get Blummer on in between some of those games. Yep. And brought to you by Bet Online. Again, a huge thanks to all the listeners and everybody who's watching and listening to this podcast. Watching, I'm sorry if you're watching, because sometimes it's 8 o'clock in the morning and I just woke up, and and I'm not at my finest, most suave.
We're not at our peak.
Exactly. But thanks to everybody who's watching and watching and listening. Keep liking and subscribing. Keep leaving us those comments. Keep it coming. Spring training is on us, and it's a very exciting time to be an Astros fan and to be a baseball fan in general. So have a great weekend, everybody. Go Astros.